crypto was supposed to be this hedge against inflation. Remember, it was supposed to be this safe place to park your money. And I think just from some of the articles that are basically saying that that's not true. And I want to make a case for it that it actually is true. Here's an article. Bitcoin was supposed to hedge against inflation. Here's why it hasn't worked that way. Bitcoin has plunged in value this year, weakening the argument often made by crypto enthusiasts that it can be an effective hedge against inflation during times of economic turmoil. Even before the market crashed, there was debate about whether or not Bitcoin would hold its value. Billionaire investor Paul Tudor Jones was bullish on Bitcoin as an inflation hedge, while Dallas Mavericks owner and investor Mark Cuban dismissed the idea as a marketing slogan. Here's another article from Forbes. Inflation remains one of the most worrisome factors among economists and among families, and yet reputed inflation hedges are just not what they used to be. To beat an 8.3% consumer price index rise, an investor would be looking for a 9% return at least. Unfortunately, none of the old classic recommendations are getting there. Again from Forbes. Bitcoin's inflation hedge case is dead. Crypto leader heading to 12K. Bitcoin was once considered digital gold. Like gold, it would be hedged against inflation. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so first of all, gold is a hedge against inflation, but because gold's market cap is so massive that so much money would need to come out of gold to really move it, right? So all of crypto is not even at a $1 trillion market cap. So to have the expectations on crypto or Bitcoin that you do on gold, which has 20 times the market cap, I think is a little bit unrealistic. I am seeing crypto as an inflation hedge for a couple of reasons.
My mind is on two views on this. One, if you've been in Bitcoin longer than a day, okay, if you've been in Bitcoin for like, let's say 3, 4, 5 years, even 10 years now, like some OGs out there, it's pretty much an inflation hedge, right? Because it went from like $5. So it went whatever, $20, $100, whatever it was when I first got in, it was really low.
Right.
And all the way to $67,000. If that's not an inflation hedge, I don't know what is. Okay. That's one. But the second part of it is, to me, crypto is not an inflation hedge. This is the second part of me that says, because it's just a risk on asset that when times are good, when there's a lot of money in the system, when people feel wealthier, not right now, but when they feel wealthier, they're willing to speculate on different things. That includes gold too, by the way. Gold is down as well. Yeah. So they're willing to buy other assets instead of holding the dollar, right? But when the dollar is stronger and the Fed is pulling back its cash and making it hard for these risk assets to work, then it's not so much of an inflation hedge. If you look at it in the narrow span of like a year or 2 or 3, right? So there's two parts to this, meaning like, I know temporarily it's not, but if I'm willing to hold this asset for a decade or more, which I have held a lot of Bitcoin for already 4 years plus, 4 or 5 years. So I still have a lot of it. And if I'm willing to hold out longer, I think it will play itself out to be that way. But it doesn't mean it's not a risk on asset. Doesn't mean it won't fluctuate like absolutely crazy. And we're going to go through 60,000, 15,000, 40,000, 10,000.
Summer, winter.
Even 2020, I think.
2020, yeah.
It was $3,500.
If you loaded your bags in March of 2020, there's nothing that really could happen to crypto except for the world ending for you to be down. You wake up today, forget still sitting on a 6x. Yeah, you're still sitting on a 6x.
You didn't check any charts. You just bought it when everybody was running out the door.
Yeah.
And you look right now, and it's still around $18,000 or whatever. You're like, oh, I did really well. But we don't think that way. We remember the last price, and the last price was $67,000.
Right. You only remember the highs. You don't remember the lows. You brought up a main point of my thesis here is time. Where Bitcoin does not have the market cap that gold has, if you spread it out over time, it balances out, right? Whereas gold has a $20 trillion market cap. Like you said, if you just held crypto from 2012, you are so happy right now, even at 20,000, you're fine. So it is a hedge, I say, against inflation, but it's the aspect of time. Gold can survive some of the short-term inflation hits because its market cap is so big, and Bitcoin will need 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is, a longer time frame to be able to withstand that. But again, anyone that's in crypto that's investing for the short term, that is gambling. That is really legitimate gambling. And we're not talking about those people.
Casino right now.
Yeah, those are the guys those are the same guys that are throwing money at SPAC stocks. And that's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about legitimate investments here. And so looking at the market for the last in a year or two, I wanted to bring up this chart. Before we go any further, this video will spark a conversation. We will continue it on our Discord. If you're not already a member, please consider becoming a member. A lot or almost everything that we talk about on our channel, we discuss on the Discord. I don't even know how many members we now. I think we have over 200, maybe 300 members now. It's pretty active. It's a lot of fun. It's chock full of information and entertainment. And I think we've got some of the best memes in the business.
The Discord is free. Join it. Also, we don't say this enough, but please just hit like and subscribe, because the Google algorithm punishes people who don't hit the like and subscribe.
And leave a comment. And leave a comment. Those things really do help push the video out and get more people to view our content. And we really appreciate it.
And guys, join our Patreon. It's literally $5 to just support us. If you want to support us a little bit more, we have different tiers. But honestly, just join the $5 level. See if you like it. See if you get any benefit just from us discussing it, having the Discord that's free. And we also have stocks that we buy, and we post it up on our private Discord server that you guys can join.
Here's Vitaly buying some more Bitcoin. I have been buying a lot of crypto, and I am going to just take a bunch of screenshots and just flood and buying. I did a bunch of like just daily buys on some Doge and Cardano. I've been buying some Ethereum, and I am building a cash position to hopefully max out the Bitcoin position that I wanted in 2020.
I have been buying Bitcoin, I think almost weekly now, and I have a weekly buy set up too. I've started to DCA again. I haven't DCA'd into Bitcoin since, I don't know, this has already been 2 years at this point.
Well, because back then we could actually afford buying a full one.
Well, now it's back to getting affordable, and I'm going to DCA harder, as I think it's going to drop, and we'll talk about that, but I think it's going all lower. It's all going lower.
Yeah. This is the S&P 500. Off of those highs in, what was this, December or January of 2021, we recovered some, but we were down as much as 24%, and we recovered 21%. So the entirety of the stock market is down over 20% off of the highs. Okay, so the people that are saying that crypto is not a hedge against inflation, when the stock market itself comes down, there's so much more money in the stock market than there is in crypto. I think it's foolish to think that crypto would just stay at its value. It's unrealistic to expect that of an asset class that's less than $1 trillion. Bitcoin is down 73% off of its highs. Let's look at Ethereum real quick. We were down as much as 82%. And we've said this before, 80% is like the normal capitulation of crypto when it hits one of its peaks. The point is, when the argument is made that crypto, Bitcoin, or Ethereum is not a hedge against inflation, where I bump is the definition of the word hedge. I see crypto as more like an asset class like real estate, right? My house ran up a bunch during the summer of 2020. But it's come down a bit. It's not something that's making me run for the hills. It's not something that's making me want to sell my home. And this is something that I always keep in mind when I'm thinking of my crypto positions. And I just say to myself, hey, like if I have the opportunity now would be a good time to buy some real estate, because I know that long-term trajectory of it is it's probably going to go up. And with something like Ethereum staking or Cardano, you can actually make some money in the meantime. So for me, the conversations or the arguments that crypto or Bitcoin specific is not a hedge against inflation is just false. I think it's a false comparison. If you think about where crypto or Bitcoin could go in the future, this is how I am approaching it. And this is just my strategy, because I feel like right now we're back in the stage of portfolio building. We have the chance now to buy some of these assets at the same prices or close to the same prices that they were in 2020, 2021. I didn't have infinite money back then. And so I'm looking at this as a bit of a redo. I'm also a little bit smarter. I was able to take some profits. What I'm doing is I am trying to build the positions that I wish that I had at that time. But now I have some evidence of at least how high it could run before we get a pullback. So now we know in 2020, we didn't know that Ethereum could hit 5,000. We didn't know that Bitcoin could hit 70,000. Now we have that information, and it's hovering at around the same prices that they were in December of 2020, right? December 2020, 2021. Although historical data doesn't always predict future movement, we can somewhat reasonably expect that they could at least get to 80% of their all-time highs. Maybe Ethereum will not hit 5,000 for a long time. Maybe Bitcoin will never hit $70,000. But I think it's reasonable to assume that Bitcoin will pass 50,000 at some point again, and that Ethereum will cross 4,000 at some point, even if we never see the 5.
To what you're saying, the reason I am not worried about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I want to be specific here. I'm talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yes.
I'm not talking about Dogecoin. I'm not talking about, let's look at something else, Tron.
Shiba Inu, those guys are real quiet now.
I'm looking at Polygon, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the blue chips, as we can call them. Yep. These are the, I don't want to say IBM. These are the Microsofts. These are the Apples and the Microsofts of the crypto space.
Where's Cardano on this?
Cardano is number 8 still, and I was a Cardano bull. Not right now. I'm a total Cardano bear right now, but I was a Cardano bull. I held a lot, and I got rid of all of it as it was tanking. Luckily, I did that. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But the reason I did is because once again, we saw how the market was reacting, and I was like, you don't hold these trash coins in the middle of a bear market because they get wrecked. Okay, even if they're good, even if you have, they're going to get wrecked. So let's talk about the blue chips here, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum. To your point earlier, that if this is a legit, let's say, a gold 2.0 hedge against inflation, let's say we both believe that. I think we both believe that, right?
I absolutely believe
hedge against inflation, possibly, or whatever long-term asset that has to be worth more than $1 trillion. And right now, if the market cap is $352 billion, listen, how many apples are bigger than Bitcoin? I mean, how many times bigger is Apple than Bitcoin?
Apple's what, over 2 trillion? Yeah, 2.5. So one company is over 5 times bigger than the market cap of Bitcoin.
Exactly. And if Ethereum is the real next level of the internet, or a network layer that's going to be part of the next internet, even if it doesn't take over, it's part of the next internet. Internet, like a voice over IP, or just IP protocol itself, basically, except for money and smart contracts. Then at 151 billion, we believe that this is silly. Like that's what
it's a bargain, right? That it's a bargain at this market cap. It's a bargain.
Having said that, so back to your point that yes, this should be worth more at some point in the future. That this is why I am scaling in and DCAing as this totally tanks and collapses, because it's still a risk asset. And even though it is the future in the future, it's not the present.
It absolutely makes sense. And this is why I feel like I wanted to stress this to our audience, because we talk a lot about stocks, but crypto is not vulnerable to the things that certain stocks are. So in this market, right, when everything is so risk off, I feel like, for me, crypto is a safer place to put my money, or at least to start DCAing in now, than it is any particular stocks. Stocks are already been beaten down, and they're subjected much more to the macro forces, I think. So for example, like when there are problems between countries around the world, or there's concerns about energy, you see that all throughout the stock market, because no matter what, even if you're not directly in the energy business, a lot of the products and services might be transported using energy. And so it's all affected. And so I think the stock market is much more vulnerable to the macro forces, and crypto just simply is not. Every quarter, there are estimates for earnings. You either hit them or you beat them. And if you miss them, you get punished by the markets. If you beat them, then you get rewarded. Not always, but you sometimes get rewarded, especially when the market is already super low. The external forces outside of the stock market tend to trend to the negative. No one talks about that with respect to gold. Gold does not have a CEO. It does not have earnings. Crypto is also a market that never closes. In the stock market, you get big rushes on Fridays, right? Or big buys on Monday mornings. You don't have that. Crypto is just a lot more stable. So again, this sounds a lot like what we were talking about in 2020. For me, this is about now accumulating the position that I wish that I had, but now having some idea of what an all-time high could look like. So I feel like it's a chance for us to build positions in something that we know is either a 4 or 5x minimum to its all-time high, having some idea of when the resistance points could be.
I want to rebut you saying that it's not subject to macro forces. I think it totally is subject to macro forces, as we see. Even Bob Lucas says this, that the macro forces are what didn't give us that blow off top for Bitcoin, that we are totally subject to the macro forces, and we should have all seen it a little bit sooner.
Can you,
inflation was running hot.
Give me an example of some of the macro forces that were at play.
Well, inflation is the big one. So when inflation was running hot, and we knew that the Fed was going to do something, which we've been talking about this for a long time already. It's probably been a year of this, that we should have all said, you know what, this is probably going down, because if the Fed now changes its mind about how it's going to, react to printing money, pulling back on all its buys in the market, this is going to affect us. And I think it's affecting crypto just as much as it has affected the stock market. So when you're saying it's not affecting the
wait. I need to interject. I think inflation itself, the tuning of the interest rates, I think that's a given, because crypto is a currency. That's the number one thing that would affect it. I'm talking about
a macro force.
I know, but that affects both markets. I'm saying inflation affects everything. It affects everything. The interest rates do affect everything, right? And crypto is literally a currency, so that would be the number one thing. But outside of that, and maybe regulation, you could argue regulation, but we haven't been regulated yet. So that's still a big question mark. It's sort of like with the green bean. We just don't know when the regulation is going to happen. And when it does happen, it's a good thing for us, right? So aside from that, it's not really subjected to the same things that affect a lot of the stocks. And because we're in such a bear market, I think any news, even good news, like you said, people think, oh, next quarter is going to be bad. Bad news, people say, oh, I knew it. It's going even lower. Like, you really need a lot of positive catalysts in a row to turn this stock market around.
Or honestly, the way it turns around is when the negative catalysts don't do anything. Like when the bleeding stops, no matter what they say. That's really what we're waiting.
That's true. That's true. Or enough big money decides it's low enough.
I am slowly DCAing into crypto because I think it's going way lower, just to be clear.
Well, let's look at why. Show your charts, why you think it's going lower.
This is what I'm looking at, this chart of Ethereum over the span of its history. And it hasn't been a long time. It's only been like 5 years, let's say, right, of Ethereum. Why do I think it's going down? Because look, if we can't hold 1400, which we're not really holding, by the way. So
that was the previous all-time high.
If we can't hold this approximately around the 1200, 1300, 1400 bucks, if we can't hold that, there's nothing else to do but go down. This is the problem I have. And as you can see, technically, if I was to be super bearish, this is supposed to be $300. Like, does this make sense?
Yes, if it goes back to retest the recovery bounce. Yes.
Or even $500. Technically, this is what it should go, because this was all a run up. It's barely even tested right here because look, it ran right past it. It ran right past 1,400 bucks.
Yeah.
We were both surprised when this was happening. It just blew right past it, and now it's going back and sort of retesting it, but it's not going to hold. Crypto doesn't.
No, I know it's underneath. It's underneath that all. You would think it would hold at 1,400, and it's not. It's at 1,200 even today. Look at it.
Yeah, but even if you say, okay, maybe these two fat candles right here at around 1150, 1,200 bucks that it should hold. If it can't hold that, there is not enough support for it to stay. And in a market where inflation is still bad, the Fed is still scaling back, the interest rates are going up, it's risk off type of environment. I can't see this doing well in the short term. I just can't see it. Having said that, under $1,000, I am scaling in pretty hard, all the way down to my last buy is actually not at 300. My last buy is around $500, right? Because I don't think it'll actually make it to $300. It'll be crazy if it does.
That would be such a shakeout.
Well, look, who knows? Who knows? Honestly, crypto has a tendency to overshoot on the downside, just like it has on the upside. So this chart to me is very clear that if we are failing this last bull run, which we sort of are right now, if we're failing it, we are going way lower, whatever that is, 750, 500. We are just going.
Look, these are monthly candles. And even if you just go back right where your cursor was between 2019 and 2020, right there. So if you look there, between 19 and 2020, we had a small green candle, then followed by two red candles, followed by a recovery green candle. Look at what we have right now coming in where your solid red line is, where your solid red vertical line is. We have the same sort of deal, a green candle, and then we had two red candles, followed by a little recovery bounce, and then it tanked. So Ethereum, any time that it's had more than 2 monthly red candles in a row, it's in a downtrend for a long time. If you even go back to 2017.
If it's risk off, crypto is definitely 100% risk off. Meaning if Apple is tanking and Google is tanking and Microsoft is tanking, I don't see how Ethereum is flying off to the moon. It's just not going to happen. Okay. If people are pulling money out of the market, they're pulling money out of all markets. That's one thing. So the other thing I do want to point out, though, let's go to the daily maybe. I just want to point out, if you care, like in stocks, we care about moving averages. If we are under the 200-day, in most cases, you're in a bear market, at least for that asset. So in this case, we almost got up to the 200-day and then we failed. So it's like, it's not looking good. It's actually failing a lot of attempts to make it. It even tried it here, by the way. Look over here. We should have known at 3,500 when it failed. We should have got rid of this puppy immediately, but we didn't. Unfortunately, all of us, we sold a little bit. We didn't sell all of it.
Sold a little bit because the thing is, you never know. And this is again what we discussed was overbuilding a position or building a position that's a bit swollen so that we can take some of this profit in response to some of the volatility that we both believe is coming up. There's really nothing to stop Ethereum from falling back down to about 500. It would take time.
Somewhere around this region where there's all this activity that's sort of lining up.
Yeah.
And look, my last buy right now is at $500 because who knows? Like, should it stop there? It probably shouldn't, by the way, but I don't know. So that's my low point. That's what I'm picking as the low point.
But the idea is, now that I have an idea of what an all-time high could be, or what the next big blow-off peak could be, say 4,500, 5,000 for Ethereum, say 69,000 or 70,000 for Bitcoin. I am trying to build a position that I will be comfortable with taking the profit that I need to fund the next aspect of my life at that level. Look, if it goes to 100,000 and Ethereum blows past 5,000 and it goes to 8,000, I'm going to be holding some to take profit at that level. But I'm trying to get to the point where if it gets to 75, 80% of that all-time high, I'm still really comfortable and I can take the lion's share of the profit to move on to the next level of my investing phase. You know, we're in our 40s. We have to start thinking about the exit strategy here. And so I don't have a 10, 15, 20-year time frame, at least for these investments going forward. There's other investments that I want to build with a 10, 20 year time frame, and I need the profits from these.
This is the Ethereum rainbow chart. It's pretty cool. And obviously it has to update where, because it updates whenever we get to the bottoms of these things, right? Yeah. Or where these channels are where you accumulate.
Yeah.
And if you were to believe this, by the way, then we are at the accumulation
fire sale.
We are at the fire sale. Once again, having said that, it's okay to DCA something because look, if you buy it a little higher, sure, fine. And then it runs off on you. But if you look at all of the times it's been in a fire sale, let's look at the last
how long was that period when it entered the blue?
This is what I'm talking about. So this is 2019, roughly.
Right.
To, let's say, right here when it broke out, it was in this channel till 2020. You basically had a year. Okay.
Right.
So you roughly had a year to accumulate. Look, it was going up a little bit. It dropped, it went up, obviously. So you might have not gotten the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, but who cares? If you would have bought it at $300, or if you would have bought it at $100 and then it went to $5,000, like, what's the difference? Honestly, like, I know we're trying to be greedy here, but it doesn't matter. So now if we have a year from, let's say right here, 2022, this is June 2022, we have until, I'm going to put it roughly right here. That's a long time. And I'm not saying Ethereum won't go up higher. Maybe it'll go to 2,000. Maybe it'll drop down to 700.
But if we go for a year and it only moves up $800, I mean, with inflation, that $2,000 is going to seem like
in fact, look, this chart hasn't played itself out because who knows if it spends more time down here. We don't know that.
Well, also, if you look back at the one in 2016, it didn't spend much time down there.
So, but I do have a valid point here that let's say you weren't able to buy everything today and you think this is a great price. You technically have a year. I'm not kidding about this. You have around a year to do this because if this is lining up like every 4 years to take off, it's lining up basically 2024 when this is going to go hopefully skyrocket.
Well, real quick on that chart, can you just at that level in 2024, can you just see what the peaks would be?
Look how high it went up out of this rainbow chart, and now it's in the yellow band. If I was to make a prediction, I would say we are going to be actually in the green band here. But if that's the case, we are going to be somewhere around 6 to 10,000.
6 to 10,000 Ethereum.
That's what I think is going to happen. I think the $20,000 that everybody keeps talking about,
18,000 Ethereum.
I think $10,000 underneath this band right here. See the yellow band?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to make it up here anymore. I think as Into the Cryptoverse guy keeps saying, it's as the longer it gets,
diminishing returns. Yeah.
There you go. Yep. As the Into the Cryptoverse guy says, diminishing returns as it goes on. So in the beginning, you could have had look at this meteoric rise, right?
Yeah. The percentage gain you're saying, the percentage gain, yes, was astronomical from $7 to
$1,400.
That is ridiculous. Yeah, you should not expect that percentage return. But if you're buying something now for $1,200, $2,000, and it's going to be worth $10,000 in a few short years, that's an insane return.
I am actually probably going to be selling at least half of it before the all-time high. So if the all-time high was 4,500, then somewhere in 2024, who knows, I'm selling it for 4,000. Even a 4x, but I'm buying it under 1,000, I hope. I think it's going down to as low as 500.
Yeah.
That becomes an 8x.
Yeah.
So now we were talking about a 4 to 8x that I'm planning on. Mm-hmm. And I've sold a bunch of Ethereum already at the 4,000 mark. So you know what? I'm not going to be too greedy. I don't think we're getting to 20,000. I'm sorry for everybody who believes that. I just don't believe it.
But also, you don't have to be as greedy on the upside if you overbuild the position, right? If you build in some extra padding into the position where you can take some of these profits, I don't think you'll eliminate some of that pressure without being irresponsible, but buying more than you need so that you can alleviate some of the pressure and correct some of the mistakes. We could be wrong. Like you could sell Ethereum at 4,000 and literally the next week it could jump to 6. You'd
Oh
still
yeah.
want to have some in the bag to be like, okay, I sold some at 4, but I'm still going to be able to capitalize on the 6.
Yeah, I want to be clear that I'm buying more when it hits 500 because, or 300, whatever. Let's say 500, it actually goes there. I'm going to go way more than I want. Like I think we've talked to on the phone.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's going up to like the 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, I'm scaling out 50% of my position.
Yeah.
Because I bought way more than I was, let's say, comfortable with holding for too long.
Exactly.
And then if I have the other 50% or 40%, whatever's left, I'll see whatever I feel like at that point. Then the rest of it has been paid for.
In the same way that I'm saying that Bitcoin is, and crypto in general, is not affected by some of the macro forces that the stock market is, Bitcoin and crypto in general are much more subjected to sentiment than the stock market is. Tesla, maybe you could argue, does trade a lot on sentiment, but like nothing moves on sentiment like crypto. And when we get into those bull markets, when the crypto mania happens, you can see some insane things happen. And so on the positive and the negative side, right? And so that to me is the trade-off, at least for now, at least until crypto gets to that market cap where it's not as, where it's harder to move it on sentiment.
The next bull run, by the way, when crypto is probably worth over $1 trillion and sustaining it, there's still upside left. I believe that, and that's why I'm going to hold some. But you bet your butt, as soon as we're in the trillions of dollars and we're sustaining it, I think those 10x's are sort of gone. Honestly, I think it's time to move on to something else. So young people like me don't hold gold. We hold Bitcoin. Like I don't want to hold gold. Like that's that's like a 70-year-old man's dream. I don't think the internet is going away. So in the apocalypse, I'm just going to die. That's what's going to happen.
Basically. Well, you're right. This is our generational goal, like what gold was in the 60s. I say to myself, we are fortunate to be alive at this time and to be old enough to have the income to participate, but young enough to be able to wait it out and really get some of those big gains. And if it's not crypto, then what is it? That's my next argument is like, if it's not crypto, then what is it? The stock market's been around forever. Are you going to wait for some other magic bullet company? That magic bullet company is Tesla. Tesla is the generational company that I think will transform the way people look at stocks and companies in the future. We happen to be alive in the time of that, and then this movement away from fossil fuels, we happen to be alive in the time of that. And then the movement away from analog currency, fiat currency to digital currency, we happen to be alive in the time of that. If you don't retire a very wealthy person, I don't know what market you could have done it.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of positive things happening in the stock market and in crypto for the long-term investor. If you're long-term minded and you can get rid of the noise for a decade, I think you walk away a millionaire with anything you buy in like green energy, like you said, EVs, solar, and obviously cryptocurrency.
With all of the things that are happening in this decade, I don't know how you get to 2030 and you're not a multimillionaire if you just invest wisely. There's still time. We're only in 2022. It's 8 years away. You are 2-term president away from being financially independent if you invest wisely with your money now.
Honestly, you're making me think about the future is bright and it's not dim.
There's a lot of smart people going to work every day who are trying to make this world better. And it's only a matter of time before we start seeing the results. They speak for themselves and then the investors follow. So hit like, hit subscribe, help us grow this channel, join our Discord, support us on Patreon if you enjoy this content. Thank you for watching.
We're the only positive channel now. Okay, see you guys later. Peace out.
Bye.